You turn on my Wi-Fi.
Yeah, right now. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Tony Pellegrino, and welcome to Tech Talk. It is Wednesday, August 17th. Man, the summer's just blown by. Thanks for joining me for this week's live Tech Talk. If you're not familiar with this is something that we do on both YouTube and Facebook. You can ask questions as we're going along. We've got a couple people here to read the questions. All you have to do is comment and they'll read those back to me. And we're here to talk about your favorite subject and mine, Jeeping. So I hope you enjoy the program. Today, we're going to talk about installing a slip yoke eliminator in a 231 transfer case. And I've got a couple other things for you as well. So let's take a look here. Of course, you can ask questions, just include as much information as you can. And then this is our featured product right here that's in front of me. This is the brand new 26-gallon gas tank for the Jeep JL. This will fit in the factory frame and still fill through the factory filler, takes the factory fuel pump, and reties into all of the factory evap system. So this would replace the side-mounted saddle-style tank, and you get a larger one. It comes with an aluminum skid plate. This is a heavy-duty, quarter-inch thick aluminum skid plate, and this is inside of a foam liner. So each one of these tanks is TIG welded and pressure tested. It's got a beautiful machined aluminum ring on it where your fuel pump sits into. And these are really nice tanks. So if you're looking to do a 4-link in the rear of your JL, this is what you're going to need in order to do that. So brand new, we're going to test fit this is like Monday of next week, and then you'll start seeing pictures of it, and it'll be out there. So we're pretty excited about this. This is going to be great. So can you tell me who's on, or if we have any questions on this, Deb?
Yeah, no questions yet. We've got our friend Tom Nagley
Nice.
on, Anthony Paquette, Alfonso Magana,
Nice.
Esther Parrott Newcomb, Sam Walker,
Cool.
Fields Paul, Brian David, BB Tom, Mike Sage, Alex Lyon, Jeff Lone, Joe Mink, let's see, Don Cars, Jeff Ruda, Tyler Kane Johnson,
Nice.
Corey Horton, BKTJ, Troy Merritt, Brent Palmer, and Cameron Harris.
Nice. A few names I haven't heard in a while, so
Yeah.
that's awesome. Thanks, everybody, for joining in. Today, the whole show is really, this is quite the tech piece on doing a slip yoke eliminator on a 231 transfer case. These came in every YJ, most TJs and LJs, unless you had a Rubicon, and then it would have come with a 241 transfer case with the slip yoke eliminator already on it. So what it does, actually let me make sure I don't skip ahead here, because I had a few things I wanted to talk about. Okay, so this is the weak link, second only to the Dana 35 rear axle. This is your next Achilles heel right here. If the drive shaft comes out, it's going to dump all of the transfer case fluid out. And this is really, it was a cost-effective design for the manufacturer to do it this way, but if you're really out wheeling, you do not want this, especially if you have a lift kit, because that U-joint, which is a single U-joint, is working real hard. And what you want to do is put a CV or double cardan joint here, which will make your drive shaft work less hard, especially because the drive shafts in those were pretty short and everybody wanted to put a big lift in them. So your option would be to go to an Atlas transfer case, much more expensive option. We chose the advanced adapters. This is the 50-7906 kit, and it comes with nice instructions, pretty step-by-step. And I've assembled the tools that we need here. I'll go through this in a second. This is not what is referred to as a hack and tap. There are some where you pull this assembly off, cut it off, drill and tap it, and then put yoke on there. Not good. That's just don't do that. Go get yourself a full kit. The full kit is only $300. I saw them on the internet for even cheaper. And, that's obviously going to be plus installation, and you need to buy a new drive shaft. So just keep those things in mind. If you pay to have it installed, you do, buy a drive shaft, you're probably into it for $900 to $1,000 total. But then you're going to have a heavier duty drive shaft, a heavier duty output shaft on the transfer case, and overall a much more sound drive line. So definitely worth the investment. Needs to be on your short list if you don't already have this. So now we're going to go through the how-to of making this happen. Any questions so far?
Yeah, we've got an off-topic question. You want to take that now?
Sure.
Fields Paul, he said he's got a JKU 2017. He's looking to do a long arm kit. Rock Jock makes one. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Rock Jock's a quality product. It's probably one of the few that I would recommend unless you're going to go all the way and do something like ours, one of our Elite or one of those systems that's a complete coilover conversion. So if you're not ready to step all the way that far, then that's a great stop right there. So yeah, good luck with that.
VB Tom is asking, and it looks like Sam Walker chimed in, do all 241 TCs have the 4-to-1 ratio?
Yeah, that was a standard on those. Yeah. It's a little bit bigger case too. It's got more planetary gears. It's just a heavier duty model.
Sam Walker added, most have 2.72 unless the T case comes from a Rubicon model.
Yes. Yeah, the Rubicon was a 4-to-1. So I know Jeff and I were talking before the show, when he realized that he was going to need to do this on his TJ Sport, and then he still didn't have Dana 44s, he just traded it in and went and got a Rubicon. But once you start, if wheeling's your thing and you realize, oh man, I got a lot of work and money to spend just to catch up, then, in a lot of cases, I almost always recommend you start off with a Rubicon. In fact, unless you're buying a salvage title because you're going to completely GenRight it out with Curry axles and everything, I recommend a Rubicon. So.
Troy Merritt is asking, I've seen some ultra short SYE, any advantage?
So the idea behind that was that you get a little bit longer drive shaft. When they say ultra short, it's like another inch shorter. The downside is that this distance, hopefully they can see this, Jamie, pretty good. Can they see this pretty good?
Yes.
Okay. What happens is the ultra short, shortens this up like so. Well, this distance inside here is the spread between the bearings that support the shaft. So as you make it shorter, you have less support. So honestly, the standard length I think is fine. It's and Advanced Adapters, by the way, is the company that makes the Atlas transfer case. So they've been in this game for a long time. They're American made. They make a nice quality product. This is the contents of the kit right here. And we're going to go through that. And I'm actually going to lock, stock, and barrel show you exactly how to install this so that you have an idea. I don't even know how long this will take us. It'll be a good half an hour, 45 minutes. So to take it apart, put it back together. And James, I don't know if you're going to want to be mobile and get in here on some of this stuff or not, but that's 100% up to you, depending on how detailed people want to see some of this stuff. So, okay.
Well, if there's any comments about that, I'll let you guys know.
Okay. So basic tools. You're going to need an air impact or electric impact with an 1.125" socket. You will benefit yourself by having a little 3/8 impact, a 10 millimeter, a 13 millimeter, and a 15 millimeter. If you haven't already drained the oil, you're going to need a hex to get the drain plug out, a couple of pliers, snap ring pliers, side cutters, a little hammer. I've also pulled 2 of my best chisels out. These are nice ones, and a little pick. You're going to need some grease on reassembly and a 3-jaw puller to get this front yoke off. So that's the extent of the tool. Oh, one more thing is this is my favorite red, high temp, 100% silicone. You will find this on everything on one of my vehicles, whether it's the diff cover or the transfer case. This is the good stuff. It has a high stiction. It's really good. You do need to clean the surfaces well with some brake cleaner. And we're going to go through when I get into prep and that, but I prefer 100% silicone over RTV. RTV does dry faster, but the 100% silicone is going to last longer. So, all right. There's one more thing you might need, and it is a large crescent wrench. Deb's got questions?
No.
Oh, I see her moving over there.
Sorry.
A large crescent wrench to hold the front yoke. So the first step in the instructions is to take off the front yoke. It requires this big 1.1 inch socket, and it is on there. Chances are, depending on where you live in the country, this baby is rusty, kind of like this one, and that thing is on there. These nuts are typically like a unitorque style nut, and they will get hot as you take them off. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this off right now. And let's make sure we're going the right way. So here we go. There we go. Okay, so you got a nice big flange nut that we just took off. Set that aside because we don't need that. Now you're going to want to take your 3-jaw puller, and there's a small flange on this that you get the ability to grab with your 3-jaw puller. So let's extend this out just a little bit and get this up under there. Let's see what we got here. Come on. These things are a little bit cumbersome. Okay, so typically the nut is what does all the work to hold this on. So we're literally just sliding this off the splines very carefully. And there we go. It really wasn't on there that bad. Mine, this must be a California model. So now this is off. Take this and the nut and set it aside. You're going to reuse those. There are some things as I go, I'll tell you that you are not going to reuse. I'm going to turn this now. And can they see a little better, James? Right here? Yeah?
I can figure out how to use a Sony camera.
Oh, okay. So the next thing we're going to do is get this boot off the rear, and there's a little strap that holds it on. It's kind of like a hose clamp, but it's they clip it on from the factory. I'm going to twist this off. There we go, and then pull the boot. Okay, we're not going to reuse those, but just set them aside. Then, as per the instructions, you need to get this little flange off, which this will not get reused, so you can just pop this guy off. And it'll take a little bit of doing to get it. It's just press fit on this shaft. And there we go. Okay, so now sometimes once you get it off of that part, it'll cooperate and slide off the rest of the way, but this one doesn't seem like it wants to do that. Let's see if I can find a happy spot to get this baby off there. Now we can use our little puller here and take it off the rest of the way. It's just a little piece of sheet metal, and a lot of the time you can just really virtually cut these things off. We're not reusing it. It's an old version of, you'll see when we put the new stuff on that it's much better. And these little 3-jaw pullers like this are, you can get them at Harbor Freight or just about any tool store. Let's see if we can get mine around there. Looks like I'm coming up a little bit short on the travel. Little sucker. Let's see if I get this side on first. If maybe I can get it around the rest of the way. It does not want to cooperate.
The one on the bottom is the wrong.
I know. I was trying to just actually leverage it and see if I could get it to grab. But
Brent Palmer thinks you need a bigger hammer.
yeah, I figured we'd get a few of those kind of comments. And of course, I can try and readjust this. Let's see what we got here. This is the challenge with doing something like this live. Come on.
I mean, they should get the point, right?
Well, this has to come off. Like I got to get this off, or I can't do the rest.
You flick the jaws around.
Yeah, I just didn't want to spend the time to do that. Let's see if I can. Yeah. There we go. Okay. There we go. Okay, next, you need to get the seal out. And Advanced Adapter says just take a chisel and whack this thing out. Now what's going to happen is you're going to deform it quite a bit to get it out. And I don't know if they can see that very well, but it's smashed down a little bit, but it doesn't matter. We're not reusing it. All we're doing is getting in here so we can get to the C-clips. Okay, so there's one large one on the outside and one small one on the inside. You will not be reusing these, so you do not have to be gentle with them. In fact, you have to actually disform them a little bit to get them to get out of the way. And it will take a decent set of C-clip pliers to make this happen here. Let's see if I can, sometimes I can just pull
Turn the
it
whole thing this way.
more. Yeah, like so?
Yep. To get it over the splines, right?
Yeah. So let's see what we got here. Not the best angle for me to be working at. Let's see what we can do here. Come on. Oh, almost. These clips are probably the most difficult part of this job. Okay, so there's the first one. It's not the normal style C-clip, it's just got sharp ends on it. So the pliers always want to slip off. So we got that one out of the way. This next one is an absolute bear, and it's big. Okay, it's actually cooperating today. So got the next big one out of the way. All right, then I need to pull off the Speedo housing, and that is a 13 millimeter. So we'll get that dude off there. And like I said, make sure that you drain the oil out of this, because when we split this case, it's going to be a giant mess if you haven't already gotten the oil out of there. So this little guy, just twist it a little bit and pull it out. It's just held in with an O-ring and this little clip. Set those aside. We're going to reuse those. Okay, now we got everything out of the way to be able to use. Now, I'm okay with an impact as you're taking things off. When it's going back together, I want you to use a socket, okay? Now, one of these bolts has a little clip on it. You want to make sure you remember which spot that went in. Okay. Now, the instructions very carefully say there's 3 tabs on this that you're allowed to pry on. Now, we're not reusing this, but it's very important that you don't damage this case on the back side. We're reusing that. This piece we almost don't even care about. So what you're going to do, can you see me still, Jim? Yep. Is you're going to very lightly tap and break the seal. Okay, we got it. So then this will slide off. Okay, so now there's still a bearing in it. We've taken the old housing and that's off now. The next thing is this is the oil pump. And you have to be very careful with this. We are going to reuse this. This is a gear-driven oil pump. If you damage this, you have to replace it. It's not rebuildable. And on the bottom, there's a little pickup tube that goes inside here. So you have to lift up very carefully and kind of slide. And sometimes you got to push your finger inside and push the little tube down, which is what I'm going to have to do because it's stuck on the little O-ring, and slide this out. So this is what I'm talking about. There's a little piece inside here with an O-ring, and this tiny little tube sits inside that. Set this aside, and when you remember that it goes in this way, okay, so that you should see this splined part on the outside. We have to reuse that. Okay, now we're going to split the case. So there's one 10 millimeter bolt of all of them. The rest are 15. So we're going to get that out of there. And then switch our socket. Okay, this is the normal size, and there's two that are longer. And the two that are longer, there's two studs that align, like alignment pins, that align the front half and the back half together. They're the ones that use the longer black bolts. This is the second long black bolt. Questions?
Nope, not yet.
Okay, so take those bolts out, set them aside, keep them together. All right, same thing here. You've got to be very careful about how you pry this case apart. I'm going to use, there's a few pieces that stick up from this side, right here, down on the bottom. And what we're going to do is we're going to carefully pry this out. Do not wreck this part. We're going to be reusing this, and these are hard to come by. You're probably going to have to buy a whole new transfer case if you wreck this. So just lightly tap. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to break the seal on the case. Okay, and it's sliding off the dowel pins, which is perfect. Okay, so we got it, and now I'm going to slide this off. Now, as you slide this off, I want you to look inside. There's a little filter right here for that oil pickup. Everything's clean, looks good. Bearing's in good shape. I don't see any debris. This really looks pretty good. Now, we're going to have to clean this surface before we put it back together, but let's set this part aside. Right there. Okay, now there's a spring here, so if you're moving the T-case around, don't lose it. Now what we're going to do is pop out. You guys have heard that there's a chain inside here. We're going to pop this front drive out. It sits in a bearing right here in the front. And I'm going to very carefully pull this back. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to take the chain off the drive right here. And then I'm going to remove the whole front section. Okay? We're going to set that aside. And like I warned you, my spring jumped off. I'm going to put it back on. It does not matter which way it goes, so just put it back on. There's a magnet inside here that catches any debris, because remember, there's a lot of metal-to-metal contact in here. This one's clean, so this is a good transfer case, not worn out. If you get inside yours, you may need some new bearings and stuff, but this looks pretty good right now. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is slide out. This is the main shaft that we're looking to replace. So can you see it pretty good, James?
Yeah.
Okay, so very carefully, just wiggle it a little bit and slide it out, okay? So this is the shift dog right here, and it's normal for it to fall out like that because it wasn't held in place by this. Now we're going to take this, I'm going to put it in the vise. And this is our old shaft. So I don't really care about the old shaft, and I'm just going to clamp right on it. Okay. And then I'm going to grab our new shaft and put it side by side right here. If I can do this without dropping everything. There we go. Okay, now I've got, I need my snap ring pliers. There's one more, and this guy's a real booger C-clip down here. And what I typically do is deform it, right? Like overstretch it, and then now I can get it off really easily. And then you're going to take this gear stack right off and put it right onto the brand new shaft. Okay, now I'm going to move the old shaft out, and I'm going to very carefully make sure that the new shaft is secure, because I don't want this falling off. I've got to put a brand new C-clip on here. So with the kit comes a whole new set of parts. So go ahead and get those off.
Hey, Tom?
Yep.
We got a question from Esther Parrott Newcomb.
Sure.
She's asking, can you change the gear ratio in a 231 to a 4.1?
Okay, that's a very good question. You can if you buy the TerraFlex, what they call Terra Low, and that is this whole half of the transfer case. Okay, so and what it is there's a different set. I don't know if you can see inside here, James, the Planetary Gears. Pretty good. So they're called Planetary Gears, and there's little gears that run on the inside of a bigger gear, and that's what actually gives you the gear reduction. TerraFlex makes this whole new front half that you can buy. Now, here's the reality. The reality is those little gears are working really hard. So now it's a cost-effective kit. It's half the price of an Atlas, right? So it'll get you by for a while, but it is possible to do that. But literally, it comes with this whole half. You'll steal some of the parts out of here, the shift dog and stuff, but for the most part, you get a whole new half of the transfer case. Okay, great question, though.
And Albert Contreras added that TerraFlex used to make a back half with low gears for the 231.
Oh, they don't anymore?
Apparently they don't.
Okay, so
anymore.
maybe they've discontinued that. You know, the problem is that, you know, YJ, TJ, LJ are getting pretty old, so there's not a lot of people supporting this stuff anymore. Okay, now what I got to do is I got to find in this kit the proper size clip, which looks like it's probably this one. Yep. Okay, now this is going to be a bear to get on here, I know. These babies are tight, tight, tight. Come on. Come on. Sometimes you can just walk them down. There we go. If I'm real careful. You don't want to overstretch the brand new ones. It'll be important that you keep these in good shape. Okay, so now I got one more level to go with this. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my chisel to walk this around and get it into place, because these type of C-clips are really difficult. Let's grab this. Come on. There we go.
Oh.
Starting to cooperate. Okay, you probably saw the spark going in.
We got a YouTube question.
Sure.
Philly B, can you explain the difference between an Atlas 4-to-1, 3-to-1, and 2-to-1?
Sure. What that is that's the ratio inside the planetary. So this side of the transfer case is connected to the transmission. So when you talk about 1-to-1, that means when the transmission turns one time, it's the same revolution on this side out toward the rear drive shaft. When you go 2-to-1, that means this is going to turn twice, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, right? So basically what that does is it's giving you the gear reduction so that for the same 500 RPM or 1000 RPM, this is turning a quarter that speed, which gives you what everybody refers to as the crawl ratio. So a stock transfer case is 2.72, which is really close to 3-to-1. So that's the ratio in a standard transfer case, and that's usually pretty good for the most part, unless you're really getting serious about rock crawling where you need a little bit more control. It's also part of the reason that I recommend an automatic, because the automatic also gives you some additional slip, which allows you to increase that ratio kind of infinitely. So, but if you're a manual, then 2.72 hardly seems low enough, and you're probably going to want to get more to a 4-to-1 because that's really going to help your control. Okay, so we've put our gears back on here, and this baby is ready for assembly now. So this will slide back in. I don't know, can you see okay, James? And actually we're going to peel off some of the old silicone here. It's probably from the factory right here. I'm going to get that out of the way. Throw that in the trash. Okay. Now we're going to slide this back in. It's very important. There's little pads on here that allow this thing to rotate. You got to make sure those pads stay in place, and you can see how slippery that is, right? It's some kind of Teflon material. Then, so keep that in place. You're going to have to lift it up. It's fallen down. And then you slide this very carefully back in. This will lock. And that seems pretty good. Make sure it's all the way back. Yep, all the way back into the bearing. Okay, good. So now we can go ahead and start reassembling everything. And I don't know if you can tell, but this is, maybe if I turn it sideways, Jim, this is the length difference, right? So there's the stock one, and here's our new stubby slip yoke eliminator one. So it's quite a bit shorter, which means you have less leverage on those bearings that I was talking about. So this is where that other bearing, you're gonna have a couple bearings sitting here and here. So real important. All right, we're gonna set that stock one aside, and we're gonna put this back inside. So we'll get this started, and then I'm gonna work that chain on there. There we go. This is going together nice. Okay, then we've got to put this back on. And remember, there's alignment pins in two places on the case, so you want to make sure that now I'm gonna be working this bearing onto this shaft, and this spring will be pushing against me here, so I just have to make sure that I find the happy place there, and then just kind of start working it to get everything together. Sometimes I look inside here and try and make sure everything's lining up.
Chad Gaskin added that it's a good idea to go ahead and change the shift fork pads.
You can, yeah. This case is in such nice condition that normally I would. You'll see them; they'll be all burnt and nasty looking. Mm-hmm. This one's really in nice condition. Okay, So there we go. All right, so the case is together, and we're going to go ahead and put our bolts back in, remembering that we want the black ones where those two dowel pins are. I was looking. Jim, do you know where my blue Loctite is? I know we were using that recently. Does that sound like something that's over there, Jeff? If not, just for this, I can just put it together. But normally I would blue Loctite these. So it's fine, guys. Don't worry about it. If it was sitting right there, then that's fine. So I'm going to put the two long ones in the two dowel pin spots. And then the other ones, oh, you got it. Okay, perfect. It's fine. There we go. Blue Loctite, gotta have it. You don't want to forget that. Actually, you know what we did forget was the silicone. Let's pop this.
Yeah,
back
Jeff
off.
Holland said silicone.
Yeah.
Back it up.
Back it up.
Yeah. Getting ahead of myself.
Brian David mentioned, tell them to clean and reseal before assembly.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Now, of course, it doesn't want to come back apart.
BB Tom asked if that was the same chain.
It is. Yeah, and this chain's in good shape. Like I said, you know, when you check the magnet and everything looks good, you're in good condition. Oh man, now it's like, come on, get back apart. I think I'm just getting it off of here unevenly.
Albert Contreras added, it's a good idea to check the range fork pads for wear. They wear out.
They do.
If
They
the
definitely
T-case ran low on oil, 231 can run with little or no oil for a while.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, you know, that they take only like a quart, you know, it doesn't take much oil at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little brake cleaner and wipe down this surface. So we'll get this nice and clean. It's important that this is clean or the silicone won't stick.
Some of the boys mentioned there's a bolt in the bottom.
There was, yeah.
Okay.
That's why I didn't want to come apart.
Got it.
People are paying attention. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Jerome.
now, what's that?
Jerome asked if Jeff completed his wiring job.
Jeff did not.
Jeff did not.
Okay, so it's only necessary to put the sealant on one side. And again, I really like this orange stuff. So you want to get a nice coat on there. A lot of the time, I just kind of smooth it around with my finger. Make sure that there's no gaps in the sealant as you go around. And this stuff has a very high stiction, so it is really good. All right, there we go. We're gonna put this on now. Glad our viewers are paying attention. That's awesome. Get that bottom guy on there. There we go. Okay, now we can get right back to where we were, putting it together.
Jared Norris is asking Tone what the T-case is going into.
This is for our little YJ. Our little budget YJ. Four shock. Yeah. Okay, so we're blue Loctiting all the bolts. That's, you know, important. You wouldn't believe how much this stuff gets vibrated out there in the middle of nowhere. So when you're wheeling, and I'm just going to load the rest of these up with blue while I'm here, and then get them put in. That's got one. One here. One here. And one here. Oh, my blue. There we go. Okay, and then remember I said to do this by hand. Do not use the impact. That is not a good idea. Mostly because I don't want you to cross thread these by accident. You know, these cases are very thin, and you really don't want to take a chance at damaging this stuff. It also assures that you're going around, and you know, you tend to, with the impact, to do more than you should at one time, right? So.
Tony Tom Negley is asking if there's a foot-pound torque requirement for the bolts.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, and it's in the instructions.
It's not much.
No, it's not much. I think it's like 14 foot-pounds. It's not much. So.
And the case is aluminum. So
It's aluminum.
Super easy to strip out.
Super.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Soft.
Yeah, or damage just in general, you know.
Tony Jerome is asking if there are any updates on the JKU cage speaker pods.
They're not the JK. No. I'm still working on the JL stuff. And as everybody knows, we're getting ready to leave for Smoky Mountain. So, yeah. Not enough hours in the day. And I can look in the book right here and see what it says for torque. I've got a calibrated hand.
Me too.
Right. Everything's looking good. Okay, so then let's check and see what the book says.
Couple of questions, Tom, when you have a
Sure.
sec.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jim Smith, will I need to have my Jeep on a lift to get the T-case out, or can I get it out on the ground?
No, you can definitely do it on the ground. It's not easy. You need to support the transmission in order to pull this out, you know, because it'll pivot on the motor mounts. So, but it is possible. I've done it, so.
And Esther Parrott Newcomb's asking how long she can expect this job to take.
Well, you're watching it live, so you're talking about the
So,
entire thing, like all the way out
45 to 60 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
the
by the
whole
time you pull the
process.
case and everything.
Okay.
Okay, so it says 20 foot-pounds on the bolts, and I'm going to go ahead and put the oil pump back on. Now, this is a little tricky to get this little guy back in here.
And you were very careful to keep the orientation the same, correct?
Yeah, and really the main thing is getting the pump lined up, right, and back on that tube. So we're getting there.
Sam Walker is asking, does the case actually have to come out to do the retro?
Well, I think so. Let me make sure this got on there. It's a lot tighter going in, this whole deal here. Come on. There we go. Okay, so that's on. Then I gotta put a snap ring on. Come on. These darn snap rings are such a booger. come on. They're just tough enough that they don't want to go.
Dave Medley added, got the O-ring on the pickup, double check.
I did, yeah. That's an important point. There's an O-ring in the bottom of this, and you can put it on the tube or in the bottom of that. You just have to make sure it's there and it's in good shape. I did look at it as I had it apart. So, come on, baby, get on there. Just doesn't want to cooperate. Sounds like there's a few people watching that have done this before.
Yeah. Mark Shaneman says he's done a couple. He said, the case does not have to come out. I did both a 231 and a 242, and the case still in an XJ and ZJ.
Oh, wow. So that's pretty good then.
He's a stud.
I'm not sure I would try that, but that's awesome.
I was going to say, I'd just take it out.
Come on. This thing just does not want to cooperate. But you got to have this on here to back up the new little Speedo drive.
Tony Daniel Haig found a deal on a used Terralow upgraded T case for his 05 TJ. What's your opinion on the budget for the upgrade?
On the budget for the upgrade?
What's your opinion on that budget upgrade?
Oh, I ended up, I had one of those in my Jeep, and I wheeled so much that I just burnt it out. So, it goes back to you kind of get what you pay for. And if you're really going to be wheeling a lot, you need to upgrade to an Atlas. Or, pick yourself up a Rubicon case, so that you can have something that'll hold up a little bit better. Come on. Slow guy. Just doesn't want to go. Stay there. Oh. These clips, man, they're definitely the hardest part of this whole thing. Yeah. Almost had it.
Did you get it? I just went and looked in Jordan's box to look for, one of those, self-setting snap pliers.
Yeah.
Couldn't find them.
Yeah, these are where I found the ones I'm using. Here we go. Now I at least got it on. Now what I gotta be careful is not to let it fall into this groove here, because I need to go all the way to the back. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge here. And I'm just using my little pick tool.
Tony John McKinney wants to know what your thoughts are on the Rubicrawler upgrade. Is it worth the money?
So I know there's a lot of people that love the Rubicrawler. And, it prevents you from having to do this, I can tell you that. My thing is, if you're going to go that far, you really want to get to an Atlas, because the Atlas gives you the ability to do front or rear dig. Some people go, oh, well, I'm never going to use that. Well, if you ever go wheeling with me and you watch us use that, you're going to be like, oh man, I can't tell you how many customers have passed on that. And I don't know if Kelly's on there or not. He was one of the original customers that did not upgrade to the Atlas right away, and ended up coming back once he realized, what a benefit it was to actually have it. Is he on there? Is he chiming in?
I don't know if that helps at all. Does that help at all?
What's that?
Some folks are asking when the end of summer sale is ending.
Well, we're not sure. We're kind of doing a wall supplies last. So I definitely wanted to encourage everybody today to get on there and get stuff. There is coming up, yeah.
It ends when it ends, so you should probably buy stuff.
Yeah, it was really based on wall supplies last. So these little guys, man. There we go. Okay. Get on there. All right.
There's some jokesters online today.
I'm sure. Well, they can come on over here and help themselves.
VB Tom says, so many options on an Atlas. How do you decide 2 versus 4 speed and ratio?
Okay, so a lot of it has to do with whether you're a stick or an automatic, okay? If you're an automatic, do not get a 4-speed. And if you're an automatic and you really like to go slow, then 4-to-1's okay. But if you're a stick, you can choose 5-to-1 or a little bit deeper. And I know that there's guys that'll choose different ratios and stuff because they want to crawl or whatever. I can tell you that we just don't go that slow. Once you're on big tires, when you're on small tires, you're trying to minimize, big hits and stuff. You're constantly focused on trying to go slow. But once you get on big tires, you're just going over stuff and you don't even think, I don't know, chime in, Jeff, whatever. Okay. I'm going to keep going here. Okay, so we slid on our deal. We've got the right clearance, so it's time to put on the end housing. So again, we'll put a little silicone on here.
Brian David is asking, the Dana 300, can it be set up for front dig?
I believe there are people that make kits for that. Do you know who that is, Jeff? Does that ring a bell? The kit for the Dana 300 to do the front dig?
No, I don't remember. I don't even know the last time I saw a 300 on the show.
Yeah.
Sam said he's had nothing but trouble with 300s.
Yeah.
Wouldn't go back.
It's the Atlas is actually modeled after the 300, but then they, made the improvements, right? So, okay. So we got lube on there.
Steve Waterman Tone is asking what works better on Atlas 2, cable shifter or straight shifter?
So I've been a fan of the direct shifter forever. I had it on my YJ, on my race cars, but in the Terremoto I have the cable shifters. I don't have any choice. So, it's one of those things where, sometimes you just don't have a choice.
We got 5 minutes left and we got a few questions coming in.
Okay, yeah.
Tom Nagley, with the Atlas in an automatic on 40s, what ratio do you recommend?
Probably the 3-to-1. That would be my choice.
Have a reason or?
I just think the other ratios are too low. And when you go to do different obstacles, it just doesn't work. So you want that. There we go. Man, this thing's going together like butter. I like it.
Chad Gaskin, how do you feel about the wide chain upgrade for the 231?
I like it, but I've never had a problem with the standard. And a lot of the guys will complain about chain lash. When you're off-road, you can feel it. So, I don't know. I guess that's a personal preference. And, you know, obviously if you have the money to go to an Atlas or something, then you should do that. It's going to be better, but it just depends on your budget, you know. And again, I don't want these bolts put in with an impact either. What other questions you got? We're almost done with this.
David Medley, 300 is a thin gear and low to mid power input.
Yeah. Well, you know, it was originally behind a 6-cylinder 4.2 liter engine, you know, that was like 160 horsepower on its best day.
Jeff Lone, what maintenance is needed on an Atlas and how often?
Change the oil, you know, and it's got an oil sight tube, which is pretty nice. And I think it takes like 2.5 quarts, maybe 3 at the most, when it's brand new. And I ran the one in the Terremoto with 640 horsepower for 9 years before I decided, well, other than changing the oil, before I serviced the bearings and stuff.
Jerome is asking if the full GenRight crew is going to be at Jeep Night this Friday.
I think so. I'm not sure if I'm going to have Terremoto or Aftershock, probably Aftershock. And we'll have the bow tie out there, which will be nice. With the
redone bow tie with the
TJ to LJ, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
People are asking about that.
Yep. So that'll be nice to have that out there. It's long overdue. It's got the brand new PRP seats. It's got all kinds of good stuff. All right, this is also a 10 millimeter.
Mark Shaneman is asking, have you ever swapped out the input on an Atlas? How tough is that task? I need to do mine.
So I have not done that personally. I know that it is possible. I know if you talk to Advanced Adapters, they say, yeah, totally possible, not a big deal. So I got to believe that it's not too bad if the guys up at Atlas would say that it's possible to do that. So, okay. So that's good. Now, let me double check myself here. It's time to put the Speedo back in, which is stick this little guy in there. There's a little O-ring on here, just make sure it's clean. And there's a nice bevel on the case. So that baby will, actually I'm gonna put a little oil on there, a little grease. Just feels a little dry. Come on.
Tony, Mark Shaneman commented he's done a few 231, 242 SYE installs. They're pretty simple. The next is to tackle swapping in a new input into his Atlas 4-speed. Can you talk about that process?
Well, so, you know, an Atlas isn't made like this, right? This is cast in. So an Atlas, there's bolts on the outside that you can then swap out the input, and that makes it a lot easier. So, again, I haven't done one myself, but I know how an Atlas is built. We have one sitting right there on the workbench, and you can see how much easier it is to swap that out. So you literally just pull it out like a cartridge and you know, replace it with the next input. And it's just it's a pre-assembled set of Planetary Gears. So, all right, so we got our Speedo drive back in. I rotated this until it meshed with the other gear. Then we've got one more big clip here that I'm going to put in. Oh, I know we're running. We're running out of time. Try. This thing's getting sticky. So basically, what we're down to is the clip, the seal. So we'll put in the seal, and what you want to do is make sure this goes in the correct way. There's a little spring on the back of the seal, and that goes to the inside. And then this is the part that you worked so hard this entire way, was to get your actual yoke on here. And it comes with a brand new nut, and there's a special little washer that you put on here first, and what that does is it seals it up so that oil won't leak out the center. So you get that guy on there, you get your new nut on, you torque this down, and I would put some blue at a minimum, if not red, on there. There is, when you get this housing, it comes with a new little guy to put here on the end of where the shaft goes for the shifter. So you put that on there, and then they give you a brand new one of these little washers for the front. So you take off this old, used, raggedy looking one, you put on the brand new one, and that slips on, and then you put your front yoke back on. And then I would say, you basically recheck all your torques on everything, and tighten all this up. Now, when you tighten these, you definitely want to use something to hold them, to keep them from spinning, and they have to be very tight. The torque rating is in here, 150 foot-pounds. So it's quite a bit, and you're going to need an impact to do that, because to try and get that with a torque wrench by yourself is tough. The transfer case is going to be flipping all over the bench. And then basically you're done. This is, you just watch the whole assembly, short of just retorquing everything, and make sure you put some fluid back in it once you've got it in the vehicle, and you've just done the slip yoke eliminator. So we've done that in under an hour, and hopefully that answered a lot of questions for people that were nervous about doing it. You can see there was a few things that I had to not use the snap ring pliers, but like a little pry tool to get those snap rings on there, because of the type they are. They're not the type with holes, they just have slits. So it takes a little bit more effort to get those on there. So any last minute questions, Deb?
Yeah, Mark Shaneman again, with your LJ builds and LSs and 1 tons, are you running 1310, 1350, or bigger yokes?
That's a great question.
What configurations do you run?
Okay, so we always run 1350. I don't go bigger than that because I want that to be my weakest link when it comes to replacing a drive shaft or a yoke. Is like the easiest thing to do when you're out in the middle of nowhere. You start having to do ring and pinions or axle shafts, that's a giant job. So 1350 would be the most. Back when I had the Growler with 550 horsepower, I kept the drive shafts as 1310s to make sure that they were the weakest link. But JE Reel has upgraded us to 1350, and that's what we run now, a thick wall drive shaft, and those have, for all of us, have been really good. So yeah, I would definitely stick with that. I think in this configuration you're going to be 1310. This is going to be a 1310 kind of a setup when you do this kind of a
Okay, we're caught up.
All right, well, thanks everybody for watching. I know this was super techie, probably a little bit more techie than usual.
Everybody loved it.
Make sure you, do reviews for us, you like and turn on your notifications, and we're headed to Smoky Mountains, so the next Tech Talk is going to come from Tennessee. So Jeff and I will be out there, and we'll be showing you all kinds of more new stuff, and we look forward to seeing you then. Until then,